last game he didn't take any. And
last 2 games he didn't take any.
Exactly. And when they ask him about it, he says he deflects and says he's not injured. But clearly you're talking about a lower body injury. I mean, when you look at a guy like a Tyler Johnson who has to crouch low to take those face-offs, no one gets, as the Reverend Joey T says, Tyler Johnson gets so low to the ice that he's practically licking the ice when he takes a face-off.
Put some cherry flavoring on that.
Some grenadine on that.
Yeah.
Some grenadine on that bitch.
Right.
And yet, he can't do it right now. He's clearly got a lower body injury. When he falls to the ice and he goes to get up, he grimaces. But, this Lightning team is much like the Chicago team in the sense that it's a younger version, great management, great scouting to get them where they are. And the Lightning only have one guy that's going to be a restricted free agent or unrestricted free agent next year.
Yeah,
in
Brendan Morrow. Yeah, he's not coming back. No,
we have
offense to
2
him.
unrestricted free agents next year in Andre Schuster and Vladimir Namestnikov, who we shouldn't have any problem re-signing.
Nope.
And but yet you look at the Blackhawks, this might be their last opportunity for a year or two because they do have some salary issues after this. They've got to re-sign Brendan Saad, who he was a guy who scored the game-winning goal.
He's the hero last game.
In the last game. And he's a restricted free agent, but this is a big-dollar guy. This is a first-line player.
Yeah, he'll make quite a few dollars.
You look at the money that they're paying Taves and Kane next year at $10 million apiece, the money they're paying Hossa on the long-term deal that he has, guys like Bickle and all these other guys are making a lot of money. The Blackhawks might have to reload next year, and they might not be able to go as far as they have. So this is their window where you look at the Lightning, and they're good for years to come.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Well, the other thing you got to look at too is the seventh best man that the Lightning has right now is the fan base.
Oh, you're dead right on that.
Tampa's always been called fair weather fans.
I hate
but,
that.
You look at all the years that when the Lightning were doing poorly, you look at attendance, and attendance was still there. So I think it's a testament to the fan base that we have here too, because when there's a Lightning game on, the streets are empty.
Yeah. Well, I think that goes back to the testament of the ownership. Since Vinik has taken over, even though they haven't been the best team around, they've still just put their heart out as an entire organization, not necessarily just the players, but the organization has put its heart, its soul out as an organization to the community, and they've been able to attract
the community's
people.
Responded
Absolutely, and you don't see that. Very much so. You don't see that in the other community, in the other sports in the Tampa Bay area.
We have people.
You don't
we
at
have
all.
people watching hockey now that have never really watched hockey before.
And you know what? You know why that is? Because everybody has a starting point. Chicago and all those guys, they go back almost 100 freaking years.
Yeah.
Okay? Now, we are, 20 years old now?
23.
Yeah.
And you're going to expect
We're legal.
bandwagon fans to come on. And you know
I've
what?
had this argument numerous times with people.
Hey, go ahead. Get in my truck. If you're going to root for this team, get in my truck.
Absolutely. I to one of our friends that we watched that's a Detroit fan.
Yeah, Caleb and I talk about this all the time.
I've actually done demographic studies. I have access at my main job to good demographics. What you would use if you were going to open a business somewhere and you wanted to study demographics of an area. I have access to that database.
Excellent.
And I've studied a drive time radius from each facility, and I've done it for other sports. I've done it for the Rays versus the Yankees and things like that. And what people fail to realize when it comes to most Tampa sports, the Bucks are the oldest here, and they're still not that old. But you talk about the Lightning or the Rays, we don't have generations of fans. We have one generation of fans of the Lightning, and now it's basically guys our age who are fans, who are finally raising the first generation of fans that were born into the fandom.
Right.
Yeah.
You got teams like Chicago that have had probably 7 generations,
7
8 generations
yeah.
born into it.
And they're an original 6 team. And
exactly.
You're talking hockey starting back in the late 1800s.
Well, the Blackhawks were part of the NHL going back to the 1930s.
Well, I get that, but I mean, hockey starting in the 1800s, bringing into the early 1900s.
I think it's amazing too, from the fact of, especially being a Florida team, we don't know what hockey is. I credit the Lightning for everything I know about hockey, and it's not that much. I'm definitely the least knowledgeable and probably the lowest level of a hockey fan sitting at this table here. But I credit the Lightning for that. But in Florida, we don't know what hockey is. Our lakes don't freeze over. How many people here, if you were born here, know how to ice skate? None of us do, unless you really start it. And so I think that's just an awesome testament.
Florida, at the end of the day, is a transient state, right? I mean,
It really
there's
is.
so many people.
36% of the people in the state of Florida are actually born in the state of Florida. Everyone else was born outside of the
They
state of
move
Florida.
here from the north. You can't blame them. You want to get away from the snow. You come to
Absolutely.
a state where it's a more comfortable climate.
Welcome.
And these people come down here, and they still have allegiances to their teams that
Yeah.
they grew up with. But then, like you said, Caleb, they sire children. In Florida, it's common that most of the people that are, in fact, born here, unlike you, Caleb, are first or second generation Floridians. I know you're a fourth generation, and that's very, very rare. But
I know all 6 of you now.
But what happens is now you see a winning tradition. These children that grow up with parents that like northern teams watch the Lightning succeed. They latch on to that. All of a sudden, they have an interest in hockey.
But it's gonna take time.
It takes time, right.
They're not born into it. Their parents weren't making them do it. Their parents are probably making them be a fan of another team, and they have their secondary team is the Lightning. But as it grows, it's going to keep growing. But I think they've done a hell of a job for what they've done.
Well, let's take a little analysis here, a little case study. The case study of Brian the Lion. I grew up in New York, born in Brooklyn, raised in Brooklyn. I was a Rangers fan. I was a Yankees fan.
Yeah,
Knicks fan.
absolutely.
Giants fan. I moved to Florida. The day I moved to Florida was September 11th, 2001.
Oh wow.
That's the day I moved here. My birthday is the 8th. My anniversary is the 10th. My wife's birthday is the 12th. So it was the 9th or the 11th. And just dumb luck, we moved here on the 11th.
Wow.
I'm a Rays fan. I can't stand the Yankees anymore. I'm a Lightning fan. So for me, watching the Lightning play my old team, the Rangers, was something special for me, because I'm like, wow, I get to see my old team. I get to see the team that I have an allegiance to for the past 14 years now take out my old team and take out kind of what I call the establishment.
Yeah.
As I started as a kid, I was a Northern boy. I'm a Vermont guy.
Yeah.
I started off with the Giants. I was a huge Giants fan. Phil Simms days,
Yeah.
Jeff Hostetler
Yeah.
when they won, Joe Morris, Otis
86.
Anderson, all those guys. But for me, being in Vermont, you pretty much had your pick. You could pick New England. You could go with stupid Boston
Right.
Boston. What's that
Bruins.
loser? What's that loser team from Bruins? Yeah.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to say that name on the show.
Yeah, I
man.
apologize. Didn't mean to say the Boston
Sorry,
Bruins.
I was not aware of that rule.
He will be flogged and purged.
Yeah, but I was a Montreal fan. But when I came down here, I almost found it my responsibility. I mean, I followed Patrick Waugh to Colorado when he,
Sure.
the last game
Great.
I watched of Montreal I was a huge Patrick Waugh fan, like enormous. I followed him to Colorado, but that's the same year the Lightning came out. So
Yeah.
I found it my responsibility as a citizen of Tampa Bay area to represent and follow those teams in a respectful manner, and I did. And I'm a huge Lightning fan, die hard to the core now.
When I was looking at, I was working in finance, and I was with American Express, and when I was looking to make my move, part of my criteria was I have to move to a city that has at least 3 out of the 4 major sports.
Yeah.
And Tampa fit that profile. Plus, everyone knows I'm a cigar guy, so
Yeah, so it's
it was
perfect for
natural.
you.
It was natural.
Yeah.
But I noticed, Brian, when you talked about your shifting allegiances, I noticed that when you talked about the fact that you moved here from New York, you went from a Ranger fan to a Lightning fan, and I commend you for that. You went from a Yankee fan to a Rays fan. Let's face it, and I was a Yankee fan too. I lived in Brooklyn as well, and
Well,
when-
I
when you
think
do
being in
become-
Tampa, it's hard not to be a Yankee fan at some point, just because of all the you talk about the ownership doing things in the community.
and that's
but-
what Steinbrenner did.
exactly.
I was
so
a Yankees fan too at that one time.
I can't hate the Yankees, honestly. But sorry,
No,
Ben, go ahead.
They've done a lot for this area, but for me, Steinbrenner passing and him, and when he did passing that torch was kind of like, all right, well, the last of the regime for me is gone, even though his
Right.
family still has it.
Right.
Yeah.
Passing the torch to the silly brother. if you know what I mean.
It was gone for me, and I'm like,
But I noticed you said look, when you become a Rays fan, you have to hate the Yankees.
yeah,
I noticed, though, when you mentioned that you shifted to the Lightning, you mentioned that you shifted to the Rays, Brian. I noticed that you didn't mention that you shifted from the Giants to the Bucks.
oh, I support the Bucks. I'm a Bucks fan.
Are you a Bucks fan
Yeah.
first? Oh, you are. Okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
cool.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I was just messing with you.
And,
like
and-
Eli
and-
very
and-
much.
And, you know what? The guy's a genius in the playoffs.
Oh, he sure is.
For whatever reason, he's
but
a genius in
Christopher
the playoffs.
Walken said something about the Eli family. He's like, hey, it looks like Archie Manning's children. Wait. It looks like Archie Manning's sperm has been sacked.
It does. They do both.
So-
they both do have the fetal alcohol syndrome face. Now, guys, while we're on the while we're talking about NHL, because interest of saving time, because we are running a little late here, and I've got some other really good topics in this segment we got to get into. We got to address, but an NBC exec. We talked about the ratings for the Stanley Cup Finals, highest that they've ever been. An NHL exec actually
NBC
went,
Sports exec.
NBC Sports exec actually went on record. Thank you for catching that, Caleb. Actually went on record to say that the NHL would be more successful if they banned playoff beards, because he claims that this guy Mark Lazarus, who is the chairman of NBC Sports,
Lazarus, go home.
claims
Was a movie
great
I was
movie
in.
that Miggy had a huge part in.
And
by the
you
way,
were in
and
too, by the
I
way.
was in as well.
Yeah.
But he claims that the beards alienate people and don't allow them to connect. Now he's now being referred to as the Scrooge of Scruff.
Scrooge of Scruff.
But I mean, look, this is just bogus to me. I mean,
It is. I mean, I understand his point. His point is to say that these young players, these rookies, or these early year guys, they can't get the recognition because the beards. People don't recognize them as much. But really, it's a tradition that's great. I mean, I'm doing it right now. I got my hair cut, and I've grown my beard out, and I was going to trim my beard when I got my hair cut the other day, and my mom is my hairdresser. She is certified.
We couldn't tell.
Yeah, shut up. She's
Mom
talented.
cuts my hair.
I've only had 2 people ever cut my hair, and she's the one that's done it the most.
I have noticed that your beard is getting a lot fuller.
It's
I was going to ask you when you walked into my condo today before the show. I
my
noticed-
playoff beard. I had to keep it.
I did notice
Yeah,
that the beard
I'm still
is
rocking
more
my playoff
full.
beard from a few years
From
ago.
2004?
Yeah.
The beard is more full than the sides of your hair.
Oh
right
yeah,
now.
I just got my hair cut. My mom, I had to say my mom. My mom looked at me. She said, "Well, you're not going to trim your beard, are you?" I said, "Why?" She goes, "I thought that was your playoff beard." And I said, "You know what? I
Oh.
haven't trimmed it since we started."
You
So
know what? I haven't
I'm
met your
keeping it.
mom, but I like her already just for
Oh,
that
moms
comment.
is great
right.
people. Moms is great people.
Now let me jump my stance on this frickin' thing. When you start playing these players to play the playoffs, because they don't get paid in the playoffs. That's a known fact, 100%. You start paying them, then you can start messing with their traditions. Until then, you shut the F up. As far as
Now,
I'm
this
concerned.
was actually a tradition. People think in the NHL that this was a tradition that's
It's not a
born from years
long-standing
and years.
tradition. It's not.
This actually started with the New York Islanders in the 1980s.
Yep.
That's where the tradition came from. But on one last thing with hockey, and then we have a couple other topics to get into before the break. But one last thing in hockey, this was a shocker to me. We talk about a Sun Belt team like Tampa, the fan support, the creation of what eventually is deemed as an actual hockey market. Phoenix, or the Glendale area, I should say, not really Phoenix proper. The Coyotes playing there. They renegotiated a lease agreement.
Did they?
A year ago,
Oh.
they renegotiated this with the new ownership.
yeah, but they have a big opt out on that.
Yeah, we talked about this a few weeks ago. They had the opt out clause.
Well, they did, but this was a shocker. The city of Glendale, the city council, decided as of yesterday to cancel the lease agreement in the middle of the term.
What?
Basically telling the Coyotes, chill, as suggested. Bettman just absolutely assailed the city council yesterday. The ownership group, the new ownership group, did as well. And we're looking at a lawsuit here. We're looking at the NHL, the ownership group of the Coyotes, suing the city of Glendale and the council.
And they should.
And they should. And,
Wow.
if there
They
was
absolutely
ever a team in the NHL that was ripe for relocation, let's face it, nowadays relocation isn't as prevalent in team sports. Ordinarily now, professional organizations don't like to relocate
Or
like they did,
organizations.
as they would say in Canada. They don't like to relocate. But look, when Vegas already has the season ticket sales and they're building an arena,
Bye-bye, Coyotes.
why don't you just make it easy for them?
yeah.
I mean, this is
Yeah.
crazy to me. So right now, the Arizona Coyotes have no place to play for next season.
well, didn't we talk about they might be going to Seattle though?
We talked about that they could, but actually
Yeah.
their city, the funding for that private arena was predicated on basketball, And when the new ownership said that they might go hockey first, they shut it down.
Oh,
so
okay.
Seattle's not an option at this point.
Oh, okay.
Now, there are 2 cities that are. Vegas,
Vegas,
who's
yeah.
building their arena and already has 10,000 in season ticket sales.
Vegas,
Quebec
and
City.
no sports team.
Vegas is